Welcome to Kidmissing TV. I realized that I never did an actual video on the Vintage Park Lady, or the Seattle Jane Doe, and or Mary Anderson Doe, whatever you'd like to call her. I did an update on her, which I will put up in the cards up here in this video, because her DNA was fully funded. Still waiting on that. It's around the same time as the woman we now know to be Marilyn Myers, the Christmas tree lady, or Annandale Jane Doe, was funded. And she has been identified. So, hoping that that means that this lady will be identified pretty soon also. Let me sort of get into my research. First of all, this lady was in her 50s or 60s. She was a heavy lady, obese, if not morbidly obese. And I don't say that to be mean, I say that as a descriptor only. She had an IUD that was a copper IUD that was properly placed in the 1980s. She's described as dark-skinned. So she could be French or Mediterranean. In other words, Greek, Italian, or, like I said, French. There was a suspicious pipe, thought to be a pipe bomb, found at the courthouse across the street from the hotel. It was a federal court. A lot of people have speculated that she might have been there to go to court with someone. Also, she could have been the patient of a psychologist who became suicidal after he lost his license for engaging in a sexual relationship with her. I don't know that that's likely to be her, but it's just another clue. She was about 5'8", and she weighed 240 pounds. Her nails were painted a cream color, and her face was made up to include pink lipstick. She had a dental plate, and she had had some kind of breast surgery. Might have been a breast reduction. Her coat was a man's coat that was made in Oregon. There was a bottle of Metamucil that came from Arizona. Now, was the poison actually in the Metamucil or the Crystal Light? Nobody's actually clear on that. She died from cyanide. Was it potassium cyanide or sodium cyanide? Because there is a difference, and there's a difference in how available the two are. She wore glasses. They were from Bon Marché, M-A-R-C-H-E. The left side of her mouth looks like she may have had a previous stroke. When I say that, I mean that it's drooped. I'm trying to droop the left side of my mouth. Now, could somebody have put it in her Metamucil or her Crystal Light? You know, I guess anything's possible. And the note was really odd. And therefore, could she have been poisoned and it was set up to be a suicide. Um, Now, I ruled out in my own mind marry the jeweler, the jeweler's wife, because I think being that local, she would have been ID'd almost right away. Did they ever find the taxi driver who actually brought her there to ask where he picked her up at? That might have been an important clue. She was the first NamUs entry from the county ME's office there. Her IUD had been in so long, the serial number was no longer readable. That's a long freaking time to have a device like that inside your body. It also makes me wonder, could she have been a madam? You know, like, could she have been like a high-class call girl in her younger days, and when she got older she became a madam for high-class call girls? This is just speculation on my part, but the IUD had been in for a very long time, and, you know, just things you wonder. Did they check with other hotels in Seattle to see if she had been in any one of them? Did they check ferries, buses? Excuse me. Okay, guys, continuing on. So that's pretty cool that she was the first in NamUs, but we were actually moved on to my madam theory. Again, it's just a theory, you know. Interestingly, she had pressed maple leaves in a newspaper in her room. Whether that meant something or not, I'm not sure. Seattle's not that far from Canada, so could she have been Canadian? Did they send posters and information to Canada? I wonder. Ouch. There were 2 pairs of eyeglasses, actually. And again, she had an upper dental plate. I wondered if she was connected to the Christmas tree lady, but now we know. Clearly she wasn't. Her Bible was a family Bible with no names in it. That's really odd. And just as of now, the only copper IUD approved by the FDA in the United States is Paragard. Paragard was not around in 1996, so she, certainly not in the 80s when she would have received hers. This is a huge article. If I can find it, I will link it because it's very inclusive of everything. It's called Something About Mary. She was called the Cipher in room 214. This was a fairly fancy hotel. I mean, if you're going to choose to off yourself, I guess the price of the hotel room doesn't really matter, you know. Otherwise, you might choose, you know, a less luxurious place. Although, from what they could tell, her clothes were pretty luxurious. This woman had meats. Her makeup was all like fancy Estee Lauder. You know, if Ulta had existed, then Ulta type, like I said, Estee Lauder makeup. And again, which is very high end. So this woman was a woman of means. Now, they never said whether she had had children or not before the IUD was placed, so we don't know. She had Her outfits were velour, black leather gloves, leather purse, again, Estee Lauder cosmetics. Um, she had a kitchen bowl in the room. And I wondered, excuse me, if this bowl could have had some significance to her. You know, thinking about my grandmother's wooden spoon, my grandmother's pan that I have. I don't have the wooden spoon anymore because a chipmunk decided to eat it. But I still have one of her set of pans. I wish I had the whole set, but I don't. I have the Dutch oven. It's the old sets with the copper bottom. And maybe, I mean, I'm not going to end myself, but maybe she brought the bowl because it belonged to someone and she cherished it and she wanted it with her at the end. Someone else also suggested, did she bring the bowl as a water dish for a dog? And that's just as likely. She had stripped the bed. She had propped her head up against a small stack of dark print pillows that she apparently brought with her. She was wearing black leggings and a black top. Her hair was perfectly combed, her nails were painted, and she had her makeup all done up. I mean, she was just done, you know? That's why the way that she was propped up and everything, that's why it makes me wonder about someone else maybe having something to do with it. Excuse me. She had a note, to whom it may concern. I have decided to end my life, and no one is responsible for my death. Mary Anderson, P.S. I have no relatives. You can use my body as you choose. Okay. It's just a little bit strange. I'm just going through the stuff that I outlined in the article. And the Bible was open, by the way, to the 23rd Psalm, and it was laying on her chest here. Her fingerprints actually were put through Interpol, NCIC, which is the National Crime Information Computer, AFIS, the fingerprint identification system, and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. There was nothing. So she didn't obviously have criminal past that she was ever arrested for. So that may say she wasn't a madam. I don't know. They also did computer searches of missing persons, came up with nothing. Paid cash for her room. She left an address, okay, of 132 East 3rd Street, New York, New York, 11103. The address does not exist. It does. It exists in another borough, or at least zip code exists in another borough, and then the phone number is in yet another borough. I had that somewhere, but I don't know where it is. Excuse me. Okay. None of any of that matters. Like I said, I highlighted certain areas to discuss. When the autopsy was performed, examiners removed the IUD. There were thousands and thousands of them because they did get a part number for it. and they tried to identify the chemical composition of the cyanide. So they could go to supply houses and see if they could identify it by a batch number. There were no records or anything like that. That's weird, because you have to sign to buy cyanide. Like, unless it is possible that one of the ways that she could have had access to cyanide without having to go to a chemical place and sign for it, is if she worked at a factory that made costume and plated jewelries, because costume and plated jewelry manufacturing uses cyanide. So she could have taken some from work. So that's also a possibility. See, there are a lot of possibilities in this case. There were newspaper articles published. There were 12 leads that had promise. One lead came from Pico Riviera, California, of a lady that appeared to be the same approximate age and so forth. However, the lady that they believed it was had dentures, webbed toes, and a scar on her thigh. Our lady did not. Well, she did have dentures, but that's besides the point. She looks European or Greek, they said. There was no anthropological way to determine ethnicity, and that's true. You can just say she is Caucasian, Caucasoid. Probably European, just like you and me, he says. She didn't make any reservations, and the hotel staff picked the room. And that's important to note, because a lot of people wondered if the room held significance to her. Well, no, because she didn't pick it. There was a copy of either the Seattle Weekly or The Stranger there, and it was open with 3 maple leaves on a page. Okay, were they pressed into it, or was it open? Because I've seen both now. Renowned forensic anthropologist William Maples. Oh, he's amazing. He wrote Dead Men Do Tell Tales, the strange and fascinating cases of a forensic anthropologist. He observed that she was a fastidious type of suicide. Meaning she took great pains to do what she did. No pun intended. She was buried at Crown Hill Cemetery. Jerry Webster, the gentleman in charge of identifying unidentified bodies at the coroner's office, had pursued nearly 200 leads. Can you even imagine that? I mean, that is insanium in the cranium. I am telling you. They also wondered, had she passed anyone in the hallway before she got to her going to continue. Was that a theory? I think that was a theory. There's so much on this case. Oh, I don't know if he thought maybe she was the mother of this child that killed himself from the ages of 18 and 26. He was also unidentified. I'm not sure what the theory was there. I think the theory was she might have been his mother or another relative. Okay, continuing on. Now, the jacket was cobalt blue Himalayan Outfitters. That's not a cheap jacket. Um, Again, a men's jacket. It may have come from the store Casual Male, which is a mall store. It's a little more expensive. The big and tall section. Um, it could have belonged to a deceased lover, a son, her father. They believe she had an emotional attachment to the jacket. It's possible, but it's also possible because she was a larger lady, she may have chosen a men's jacket. In fact, I can remember back in the 80s, this jacket was from the 90s. So it was from the era that she was found in. All the women that I knew that were my mother's age, and that age group, mid 20s to early 30s, wore men's jeans because they fit better. So it doesn't mean that it had any sentimental value to her necessarily. She just could have worn the men's jacket because it had a better fit for her body. Like I said, most of the women I knew that were my mother's age group in the 80s wore men's jeans because they fit better. So that could be exactly what it was. I have decided to end my life and no one is responsible for my death. Mary Anderson. P.S. I have no relatives. You can use my body as you choose. It's weird. Ouch. Just, it's contrived to me. Does anyone know, did they ever get the chemical composition of cyanide? Cyanide is generally consumed as a salt, such as potassium cyanide, which is famous for being the type used by Adolf Hitler and some other noteworthy people to kill themselves. However, there are other compounds which could also be used, sodium cyanide, for example. Assuming there was even a tiny residue left, they should have been able to get a good analysis. She was placed in NAMUS in 2010, by the way. They could have done stable isotope analysis and hair analysis and try to figure out where she was from. Also, radioactive isotope analysis can potentially give a more accurate age. Between 1946 and 1962, the US and Soviet Union tested numerous nuclear weapons in the Earth's atmosphere. Someone who is a young child in the late 50s would be expected to have higher than average amounts of certain isotopes in their teeth and bones. This was the peak of testing. That's interesting, because that would mean that my father would have that. Because he was a child in the 50s, and in the late 50s he was a teenager. Yeah, he was a child in the 50s, so that's interesting. Was there any trace evidence on her? They call it residue, but the right word is trace evidence, or whomever I got this from. I think I got it from a message board on her. Pardon. Okay, guys. Someone's doing me a favor and getting me some food, so I appreciate that. In the way that she wrote the note, use my body? Wouldn't it be more natural for someone to say dispose of my body or do with my body? I think so. Okay, I also made notes about the other pictures. She had like a blackening on her left eye in the postmortem photo. She had pockmark on her nose. There was a pill bottle, but the label was taken off of it. I wonder if they, because sometimes pill bottles will have. Yep. Sorry, guys. Just for salad, so that doesn't really matter. Sorry, guys. Like I said, someone is buying food for me because I can't move. So I wondered if they tested the residue in the pill bottle because I know, like, for example, my aspirin, my Imuran, leaves a residue in the bottle. And you could swab that residue and figure out that this is Imuran. So I'm wondering if her pills left some kind of residue. If his capsules, maybe not. So, okay. She actually checked in as Mary A. Anderson. She's estimated at mid-30s to mid-40s. Her ears were pierced. She plucked her eyebrows. I don't understand. And she took really good care of herself. Something I do not understand is okay. What I don't understand, as I was saying, is they claimed that she appeared to be between her 30s to 40s. Most people, myself included, believe that this woman was more like her 50s and 60s. We'll see. Tell me what you think. You can see the poster. And by the way, the poster that you see is actually, you see, that does not go there. Do not know why that was there. That does not go there either. That's so funny that I had genealogy in this folder. That she looks older. And you can tell me if I'm wrong, in your opinion. That's fine too. I'm gonna put this genealogy elsewhere. That'll go in there after that there. Because I think she does. And I think looking for someone younger may have hindered them. But it'll be very interesting when they do the genealogy. If you went by the name Anderson, S-O-N, not S-E-N, that would lead you to a much lighter skinned part of Europe. That's definitely not Mediterranean, if that was her name, which likely was not her last name. Not just because of that, but because of the lengths she went to in order to hide her identity. And a lot of people, again, have issues with people do not want to be identified, don't identify them. I disagree because I think their families need to know where they are. What happened to their relative. I said this in the Christmas Tree Lady, Marilyn Meyer case, and I still hold true that what that person wanted at the time of their death, in the not so nice state of mind that they were in, doesn't matter now. That is in my humble opinion. What matters is the people that are left alive to figure out where the heck you went and pick up the pieces. So I believe all John and Jane Does, regardless of what they said they wanted in their final notes, should be identified for the sake of their families. It's just my opinion. You can disagree with it if you would like. Thank you so much for joining me for this special edition of Kidmissing TV on this Saturday, September 17th. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you to the artist that created this poster. I appreciate it. She did a good job of pulling the face back up. One thing that happens when you're laying there and you're dead is it comes down, and it's harder to, it's important to make the person look alive. And I think she did a good job. So call the number on the poster if you have any information in this case. I think you might know who Mary A. Anderson truly was. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say she wasn't from Washington. As we saw with Christmas Tree Lady / Marilyn Meyer, she was from Davenport, Iowa. So you never can tell. I will see you next time for our regularly scheduled program on Monday. Have a wonderful rest of your day. God bless you. And thank you for subscribing. We're up to 192 subscribers. We can get up to 200 this month. I know we can do it. We've got 11 subscribers in the last 10 days. So we can do it. We are doing phenomenal. And please check out Funky's World, my fun channel. Like and subscribe over there and here. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.